What's up guys, my name is Lex Veldhuis and welcome to another episode of Learn with Lex. We're gonna jump straight into the action. Over here we have the $1 bounty builder. As you can see, it's been running a little bit. I was messing with some settings, but now we're good to go. We're gonna focus primarily on bounties here, and it's a tournament format that you guys all play. You can look at the play timer to see how much time elapses between hands, and I'm only gonna show you guys the actual decisions. Alright, over here in hand 1, we're gonna call along. As you can see, we have to call 50 for 340. Of course, one of the first things when I see this situation is that somebody called from early position. There's always a little bit of a danger that they're gonna come over the top again, but realistically, most of the time we're gonna see them flat call, and then we only had to pay 50 for a pot of 500. Incredible price, especially because we're suited. That just gives us so many more possibilities in playing the hand. We flop a 3. At this stage, I would really need it to be checked around and improve, or the board to pair for me to want to do something. What's very important in these situations that you want to sort of train yourself to look at is there at least one club on board? Because if there's one club, 2 more can come and I can make a flush. But now this hand is just absolute pits, and we're just gonna throw it away. Again, I would have loved to play this hand. It is, like we said in some previous videos, it is a little bit deterring. Somebody makes it 3 times the big blind. This definitely makes me hesitant about playing. So I'm just going to throw it away. If that was a min raise, I could consider 3-betting, I could consider calling, I could do many things, but now I'm just going to get out and show that some respect. Okay, so over here we have ace-jack. I'm just going to give it some respect. Bolt Fury, I'm going to keep my eye on this though. He's the player that opened 3 times the big blind before, so obviously, this is good when you're playing a table. Let's alert, try to look for a showdown. Maybe look in the replayer, that last hand that they played when we had 9-8. No, there was no showdown. Okay, so we're just going to keep an eye on this. Like, what if this is Jack-9 suited? Now we know, wow, they play kind of spewy, right? Because 6.5 big blinds looks very spewy. But what if they have ace-king here? Now they might be a scared player. So, big bets can mean multiple things. And the only thing we can do that is try to look at the information in front of us. Ginormous continuation bet. Ace-high board. Kickers are irrelevant, right? Ace-jack-10 is much different than ace-7 deuce. Still bets pot. This is definitely something you can make a note of. Uses massive sizings. I mean, it doesn't really matter what happens anymore, even if they go all in, which they probably shouldn't, even with a flush or whatever. Insta checks behind. Has ace-jack offsuit. Alright, so now what we know is, now you can make a note. Uses big bets. Uses big bets with marginal hands. Blows up the pot. Possibly to avoid tougher decisions. So that could be something. Alright, we're offsuit. Immediately we'll jump into that. We'll talk a little bit more about it. So we want to call a lot with ace-high from a small blind. This is something that people aren't very used to, but it's really nice to have on this board, because if you start raising all your ace-highs, if you raise out of position and there's an ace on board, your opponents will know, hey, this player can't have an ace, so I'm going to fire at it. All right, over here, I had somebody raise. I re-raised before the flop, aka 3-bet. And somebody else came along. And usually when somebody else comes along here... Sorry, I was also playing another hand, recording a few of these at the same time. Bear with me. Just means more content. So we had an open here. I re-raised and this person called behind us. Now, what you need to really remember is that when people start calling behind, that is usually an indication of a pair. It could be 9s, it can be 8s, or it can be ace-queen suited, but it's all these kind of type of hands where people aren't really sure if they want to put in the extra raise, but they damn near don't want to fold. So they usually go for the call, and that results in these kind of boards. And just like I said, going to show up with a pair in the milling range because they don't want to fold, but they don't really know what to do with it. One of the reasons why I decided to not bet on this board, even though we flop a gut shot, is the fact that this is a very safe board for exactly that range. So I don't think my bet's going to get anything. On top of that, I opened the betting to this player and they could check raise me off my hand, even though I have a lot of equity here. Like a gut shot and an overcard is very powerful, so it's important. All right, we're gonna raise here. We're in the cutoff. This player just joined the table, so they're not in the hand yet. These are boards when you play cut off versus button, so you know we're technically cut off, right? We're technically here because this player joined the table. These boards you're gonna have to check a lot. People will play a lot of hands around this. Now obviously we're gonna have strong hands of our own, but we still have to check a lot because we're gonna have to check so many misses. If we have like pocket fives or whatever, some jack 7 suited, we're just gonna have to check it. Now we just try to go to showdown and we just win, which is nice. I mean, they could have a hand like 6-7 suited or pocket fours or something. Maybe it's a bit hard to gauge, or deuce 5 offsuit, you know. Yeah, all right. All right, so we only played a few hands, as you can see from the runtime at this table. However, that doesn't mean that we should get feisty. This is still a fold. When you play against limpers, you want to be really careful with the weakest offsuit hands that you would play from that position. Obviously, I would play any ace on the button normally if there was no action before me, but it's still one of the weakest offsuited aces that I can have. It doesn't have great playability. It's definitely more of a hand that is structured and organized to take the blinds down. So be patient and be disciplined and throw it away, because a limper has already shown interest in the pot. This is very, very important. Over here, we're going to open. Good hand. All right, so we raise pre-flop. No flush draw. We're going to check this board a bunch to people that are in position. But especially when there's no flush draw, we can just bet. There's less continuing for them in general, which means we can bluff a bit more, right? Board is a bit drier. Also, one of the assumptions that I make on these stakes is that if I check, that people will be less aggressive. So they have last say, right? The button's over here. They have last say. On the higher stakes tables, people will attack these boards often realizing that they have a lot of queen jack, queen 10, pocket sixes, king queen, king jack, king 10, king 9 suited, king 8 suited. So they realize, or even a hand like jack 10 is pretty strong on this board, right? So they realize they have a lot of hands that they can play, so they bet a lot also with their dog shit hands like pocket fives. Now on these stakes, I don't think that bet's coming very often, so I'm going to alternate my strategy a little bit with my strong hands and play a little bit more face up in that sense. So it's a very important difference to know between stakes, and it also gives you an idea of how I adjust from my higher stakes to these stakes, and maybe possibly how you could adjust watching me play and then play your own stakes. Our patience gets rewarded. 1 hour in and we have our first real monster. Alright, so we're going to start with the min raise. Always in a bounty builder, look at the stacks behind you. Only have 30 big blinds. The less we have, or the less our opponents have, we are going to decrease our raise size. Very nice that this person comes along. We're going to incentivize them to play with somebody who's short with a bounty. I don't really want to give any freebies on this board. If they check back, the turn is a 7 or 8, or the jack of spades or something. None of that's really good. I'm going to bet, and I'm going to be very happy to get it all in on this board against any player, really. Of course, there's some strong hands. They could have a hand like 10-9 or 7-8, but they can also just have jack 10, king, king 10, queen 10, anything. Okay, so this is a bit funky. Now we get introduced to a card that brings a lot of new draws. The possibility that I have king jack is very unlikely because I have kings. So I'm not too afraid of king jack. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna double pot shove because of the 2 flush draws on board. When a triple draw pretty much gets introduced on board, I'm gonna overbet because there's a lot of tough rivers and it's gonna make it seem more drawy from my side. So just to expand on that a little bit here in the bounty builder $1, in this situation, it's even better when you're out of position. I do really want to say that, but I also wanted to illustrate a point. So this is where the button is, and they call the flop. So they're gonna have a lot of hands like queen jack, jack 10, jack 9, 9-8 of hearts. All of these hands that have a shitload of draws or possibilities. I'm gonna have a lot of that stuff too. I'm gonna have some ace king of hearts, ace jack of hearts. Maybe I'm gonna have ace jack of spades. Ace 8 of spades, all these things, and it's just a really, really appetizing spot for me to protect and also to balance a bit because I do want to shove with draws a lot there. So keep that in mind. All right, so I called in a small blind with a suited king. We both checked on the flop. Now, one thing I don't want to do is you generally don't want to bluff with missed flush draws. I really want this guy to have 8 deuce of spades or king 8 of spades, that sort of thing. So by having spades myself, I pretty much take away a lot of the hands that he's going to be folding. And that's not what I want when I'm bluffing, right? When I'm bluffing, I want to maximize the opportunity that my opponent folds. So keep in mind, bluffing missed flush draws is generally a very, very bad idea. There are situations, but they're so technical and that's also pretty advanced that there's no point in mentioning them now. But generally speaking, you do not want to bluff with flush draws that missed. Over here, we're in the cutoff. We're definitely going to raise here. Queen Jack, strong enough. We can raise that pretty much from over there. We flop a Jack, which is great. 20 big blinds stack there. It's kind of nice. They're in the big blind, so I'm going to make a bet. I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of betting by them. I'm going to get some great opportunities if they check raise. And again, I think I'm going to go for a big bet on the turn. I don't think if I bet 700, it accomplishes much. I think if I bet 2800, they're going to call with 5-6, 7-6, 4-6, possible flush draws, any Jack really. Don't think they ever have ace-Jack, so I'm just going to go for it here. Get some value. Also makes rivers a bit easier. There you go, ace-3 of hearts, misses. Got the full value. Against ace-3 of hearts, I bet the turn and shove the river. They're just going to fold. So I really force them to play for their whole stack. On top of that, I pretty much guarantee that I get the bounty if they have something as well. And that worked out. And we're just going to play the next hand immediately. Ace-Jack. So everybody's a little bit deeper now, except for the big blind, but that's not bad. So as you can see, I make it, well, I can make it 2.05, the big blind. And we increase that a little bit steadily once we go on. If you want to figure out how to do that, in PokerStars lobby, if you click settings on the right side and gameplay, you will see bet slider. And on the bet slider, you see you have all these kind of options. So you can tinker around with those and really play to what you like best. So I'm going to bet 33%. It'd be great for me if they fold. And they do, so we take that one down. Obviously a relatively dry board. I don't think on these stakes, in $1 tournaments, people are going to call enough with speculative hands, which means I can just take down pots immediately, and especially out of position, that's just a great advantage. So nice little follow-up there. And also in this tournament, as some others that I'm simultaneously recording, we're just cruising along. We're not really playing much. Like, how many hands have you seen me play here? I played like 9 or 10 hands, or even not even. Some situations I folded, and we're still to a nice casual double starting stack, 60 big blind cruise. Guys, if you're looking for a place to talk poker, I have just the place for you. I have my own poker Discord. We can talk about anything, strategy, the poker news. You can share your brags, your beats, you can ask me for advice, or you can just chat to random people about poker. You will also be notified when I go live and when there's a new video out. So check the link in the description, join the Discord, and see you there. All right, I'm right back here with the bounty, $1. We're in the big blind here, guys, and somebody has bet, and we have to think about what we want to do. I think I'm gonna slow play my... If I call, there'll be 10 in the pot. I don't think I can. I really want to get to all in because bounties are so important here. So sometimes I will make some different decisions to blow a pot up a little bit compared to a freeze out, just because it's so important to get that bounty. Also, if we call, they would have 1.5 times spot on the river, and it's going to be pretty hard to get paid. Had they bet a little bigger, I definitely would have called. Over here, I'm going to bet. I have 2 possibilities at a gut shot. 8 is a really bad card. Even a 6 looks better now, right? There's less chance of people having an 8. The only hand that doesn't really like that 8 is a 10 here. I'm still going to bet, though, just to put some pressure on a 6, for instance. And what if they have a hand like King 7 or Ace 9 or 9 Deuce that had a gut shot? Like all these hands that I don't want to give the option to bet or see a river for free. So still nice. We're able to take that one down. All right, so we have a hand here. It's very, very tempting to start calling this, but unless you have a better hand, I don't think I really should. The problem is we have the big blind still behind, and this person has already shown an interest in raising. So if we go along here and they shove, we lose out on 3 big blinds, which is an actual disaster. I have to say, it is getting a little bit juicier, but the problem is the juicier it gets, the more likely they're going to re-isolate. If I call as well and they think, oh, I don't want to play against 3 or possibly 4 players after the flop, I'm just going to get my 26 big blinds in. Because there's already 10 in the middle, or 13 when I call. They do end up calling, but that's fine. It's not like as if I would have called, they call, and they call that I have a perfect situation. I'll be out of position, first to speak, on every street against 4 other players. Obviously, when you see the 2 diamonds, you think, oh no, but that's not really the way you should be thinking about situations like that. Really interesting spot here in the bounty builder. This was call pre-flop, call pre-flop, call pre-flop, call pre-flop. It's very unlikely that this player has a 4 in their hand. However, we're super deep, and if they do, it's a bit of a disaster. I still have a player behind me, and they could as well. And also one of the problems really here is if I raise, I almost represent a hand that's stronger than what I have. If I raise, then people might think that I have the 4 in like pocket 4s or ace 4, and I only have a set, quotation marks. I'm just going to call here though. I don't really see a point in raising. It's kind of nice. Also, if I call, there's a big likelihood that this person comes along as well. Whereas if I raise, I might not get paid by a hand like 10-9. Obviously, super weak ranges there. But still think that we are extracting the max by allowing this player to either bluff or call with, let's say, like a 7 or something. All right, ace-king. Let's do is there any weird bounty thing going on? Not really. There's 2 juicy stacks over here. Other than that, though, the table is pretty deep, so I'm going to make it a little bit more than normal. And we run into some competition, and this is where it gets interesting. So this is a way too small re-raise. It could even be a mistake that they weren't paying attention. It's one of the first hands back from break, so maybe they're not awake yet. But now it becomes easy. At this point, we don't have a decision anymore, even if they go all in. We go all in. We cover everybody. We have one of the best hands in poker. What people oftentimes will use to hunt bounties is ace-high hands. So especially ace-king, ace-queen are so extremely good in this situation that we just have to go for them. Queen's actually there. Wow, 9's flop a set. We just need a king or an ace, really. Wow, that's so brutal. Oh, that's insane. What an insane hand. Okay, so that's bounty. Oh, we can re-enter. Nice. That's bounty builder poker for you there. Obviously not ideal. Not ideal to register shorts, I guess. Well, it gives us some... oh, it's actually fine. There's bounties that we cover, so we'll just continue. That was a fun hand, though. I definitely would have called a 17 big blind shove. I definitely would have went all in if the button opened, or went all in himself, by the way. It's very important to note all of those things. Sometimes when you go over a hand, and this is a concept that a lot of people don't apply. Sometimes when you play a hand, you can think of 2 or 3 different things. This is something that Phil Galfond taught me back in the day. You can think of 2 or 3 things that your opponent can do and already decide what should I do when that happens. So I already decided if they open or shove, I go all in. So I learned 2 things, right? If they go all in from the small blind, I go all in, or if they call, I'm going to go all in. So there's 4 things that I'm already teaching myself about the hand without anything happening yet. And that's how you multiply your experience while you're playing. All right, very easy all in here. We actually get calls. Nice. No sweat. Win a bounty. Nice to have 30 big blinds on our re-entry, of course. We get some breathing room. And really nice to just double there. So here we're going to go towards the money. We're far ways away. And money bubbles just matter less in bounty builders. And this is something very vital to remember. Because it's the half of the prize pool is in bounties. So you need to be able to win bounties, and you aren't going to win many bounties by short stacking. Here I'm going to put maximum pressure also to win bounties. Big blind only has 8 big blinds. Normally in a regular tournament I would never shove this. Okay, so we have 20. We're going towards the money, but still far ways away. We don't want to raise, we don't want to fold, so we just call. Really good hands. Some possibilities on this board. Obviously you can make a straight with a 7. The hearts are always nice. And a king is also something we have to consider an out. So again, as what we saw before, this is a board that interacts really well with the big blind. You have all kinds of hands like 6-8, 7-5, 9-7, 10-9, etc, etc, etc. So what do? We use that and we bet and we try to make our opponents fold. You don't have to bet big because we have so many hands that we can bet here. They'd be crazy to call with a hand like ace-queen or something. Now, it's very unlikely that they have clubs, because they check the flop behind. People generally don't like to check flush draws, especially on lower limits people won't. We have all the clubs, we have all the 2 pairs, we have all the straights. So we're just going to continue our bluff. Of course, we're going to make it a little bit more forceful now, represent a real hand, and not give somebody a good enough price to call, and we take it down. Just want to reiterate also, this point is very important to bet bigger on the river. At a certain point, the turn you get a lot of insta folds with a small bet, but if they call, there is a possibility of a hand like King 8, Ace 8, Ace 6. You really have to put some more force behind it. Also, this card introduces a lot of new strong hands that you can have there. Alright, so on to the next one. King Jack, standard to open. Always scout what the bounty situation and stack size situation is. This is important every single time in a bounty builder. Everybody's gunning for each other's stack, and it's really important to know who's gunning for what. I'm gonna make a small bet here. I think the small blind's very likely that they completely miss. I have some possibilities with the King of Hearts over multiple cards. This is a pretty bad card because even if they call the flop with ace high, now they feel super comfortable, and I don't think they're going to go anywhere with ace high. You'll see a lot. I was just going to say you'll see a lot of people make the mistake to lead out here. I don't really see the purpose of it. This just shows what you want on this board is for people to at least believe that you could have a hand like 8-9 or ace-8 or something like that. Once you lead out, it just becomes too obvious that you're pretty happy with this board and that you like to blow up the pot. So we talked before in the series about bluffs in somebody's range. So the fact that he should keep some bluffs for me available, but by leading 75% pot on the turn, he takes all the bluffs away from me, and I can just play my hand perfectly and fold, or if I have something strong, I can continue. One thing that's really important to note when we play bounty builders is when we get short, we have to adjust the hands that we go all in with a little bit. I folded this hand because it was an open from a relatively early position. But you have to think about it. When you get short in bounty builders, you are going to get called more often. You have to remember this when you decide what hands to go all in with. Are you going to go all in with a hand like 10-9 suited, whereas in the normal tournament you think this is a great hand to go all in with? In a bounty builder it might not be, because if in a normal tournament somebody folds a hand like King-9, now they might call with King-9 and dominate you. You have to be very careful about that. That's why hands like pocket deuces, pocket threes, they become a lot less good in bounty builders. Hands like Jack-10 suited to go all in with become less good as well. I would rather go all in with a hand like King-7 suited, for 12 big blinds sometimes. People will call you a lot with Queen 10, Jack 10, Jack 9 suited when you get really short. So then at least King high is going to be dominating, or at least having an advantage over those hands. So a little bit technical, but I just want to imprint on you guys is when you get short in bounty builders, it's really important to realize what that means, right? In a normal tournament, if you have 14 big blinds, people are going to call with certain hands, but now you have that tasty bounty on top, and everybody's aware and hunting for that bounty. And it's a very important thing to keep in mind. We're going to raise with ace-7 here. This is just at the cusp of what we want to go all in with. If I have 13 big blinds, I can go all in, but I don't think it's good enough for 15 big blinds. I can still play. I'm very tempted to call here just because this raise is so absurd. Like, let's say, okay, so let's think about this, right? Let's say this person has kings. Now, it would be, they can have kings, but it would be very bad because behind them, there's some really deep stacks. Why would he push all of those stacks out just to fight with me? Of course, there can be some ace-jack offsuit, but I really think there's going to be a lot of like Jack-10, King-Jack suited, a lot of King-Queen. So I'm just going to go for this hand because I really feel that strong hands, exactly, boom, there you go. This is a hand that normally would struggle very much to play against a re-raise, but think about what this player is doing, right? This player is zoning in and tunnel visioning on my hand. And these are the little intricacies that are so important in bounty builders. If you look at this situation, think about what this player would think about when they have aces, right? If they have aces, they just want to get the max paid. Also, by a $27,000, $36,000 stack that they cover versus both players. So if they would have aces, they would just make it 3,000 or 4,000 to make it more appetizing. What they're doing is they're shoving everybody out, and they're pretty much saying like, I don't want any of the money that you guys have. I just want this guy's money. So he really isolates my stack, and that indicates a lack of strength. So what are hands that want to do that? And those are exactly the ace-jacks offsuits, but the king-queen offsuits, the king-jack suited, the king-10 suited, the hands that are like, leave me alone. I want to play against this player. So here you see a hand that I would normally be very hesitant to play versus a re-raise because of the things that I see at the table. I'm going to step away from the theory and make a judgment call, and I was spot on. So that's always nice, especially when you're recording it. Also here we are getting close to the money. That's something to remember. Let me put a bubble icon on just so you guys are aware. So now we have a much more comfortable stack. We still don't cover shit at the table, by the way, but that's fine. I'd still rather have this than not. 30 big blinds open shoves, not really a thing. But it's, you know, fine. Everybody can play whatever they want. Only 30 spots away from the money. Now, again, I want to reiterate that the money in Bounty Builders is just less important than in other tournaments. And I say that it's important to cash, but let's take a look, right? In most tournaments, when you have a min cash, you're gonna get something like 150% of your buy-in. Now look at Bounty Builders. You get 85 cents, even though the buy-in is $1, and this is $1.10. And this is very common in Bounty Builders and something that's extremely important to remember. So the bubble is less impactful on your financials, right? Because it's smaller. It's less than the buy-in. But also, it's less valuable to let yourself blind down to the bubble of a Bounty Builder. What is powerful in a Bounty Builder is having chips and covering people. You want to cover people, right? You want to have a stack so you can knock out bounties when the bubble is passed. So those two things combined mean that when you're on the bubble of a Bounty Builder, you're not going to play as snug or tight or careful as you would in a normal tournament. Because in a normal tournament, it doesn't matter if you have 10 big blinds or 20 big blinds. If you're in the money, you get 150% of your buy-in and you'll see whatever happens after. But if you make the money in a Bounty Builder with 8 big blinds, you don't cover shit. Now, what's the use of having 8 big blinds and you cash for less than your buy-in? So I hope you guys understand what I'm trying to say and why that's important. I raised before the flop here. I'm going to continue with a bet. This is my friend from before. I'm going to bet small, see if I can weed out some underpairs. King is going to be good sometime. I do think that my king is going to be good. If I check, if they go all in, I no longer think my king is going to be good. So here you see, I stuck with my read, right? I bet small on the flop. I bet small on the turn to try and get underpairs out. They had a hand as speculative as 4-9. They didn't fold the turn. I have plenty of outs against that. I hit the king. If I bet at this point, you have to realize what happens is, if I bet here, all of the worse hands than me are going to fold. 4x, 3x, 5, 6s, 8s, a 7. Whatever they have is going to fold. And only the stronger hands are going to call. So at this point, my hand is not worth a bet anymore. Now I can check, and if they bet, I can decide if I think they're bluffing and if I want to call the bluff. So very important how to understand what the purpose of a bet is and what the consequences of a bet are. Also really important to note, after the king-queen, that they made it big earlier, and now they play a hand as bad as 4-9 suited, that they're gunning for us, right? And it could be because I'm a known pro or whatever, but it could also be because I was a bounty, or it could simply be because they lost the pot against us. I mean, sometimes people really start targeting people just because they lose a few pots and they turn it into a personal vendetta, which is a really, really important thing not to do at the poker table. But here we are. We have 36 big blinds and we're absolutely cruising. The money's going to be there in 16 spots and we'll just carry on. All right, so we see a really interesting situation, and this is what drives people absolutely mental, and it should, because there's somebody all in here. They don't even have a hand because they were disconnected, and the bounty's already all in. So we don't even need to win the pot at showdown against this player. So we're just gonna call. I really don't want to get it in for 30 big blinds, even though we probably could. Okay, here's the crazy thing. So now we're actually gonna call 30 big blinds with queen 10, and this is based on the things that we've seen this player do for bounties. The king-queen offsuit, where he blew it up to 15 big blinds. The 4-9 suited. I honestly think we're going to see 9-8 offsuit plenty of times here. So we're just going to call king 5. Absolutely spot on read. Yes, we have queen high versus king 5, but imagine if somebody shoves queen 5. This is a very important point because the result there doesn't matter in a vacuum. If somebody shoves king 5, they're also going to shove jack 10. They're also going to shove 10-9 suited. They're also going to shove 9-8 suited. They're also going to shove king 9 offsuit. All these trashy hands. Queen 10 performs really well against a random hand that's all in. We have two relatively high cards, we're suited, we even dominate some of the hands that he's going to shove, because if he's going to go all in with Jack 10, then we do really well. Even now with them covering our suits, if you look here, even with them covering our suits, we have 43%. So 43% with them covering our clubs and with us having queen high versus king high. And I honestly feel this is one of the worst case scenarios. This is a player that played 4-9 suited and called twice on an ace high board to try and bust somebody with a bounty. Absolutely vital to remember this, scout this out at the table. Now, what you also have to understand is that there was dead money because somebody raised pre-flop and then folded to a shove. So there's 3.5 big blinds. I mean, this is very vital, 3.5 big blinds in there. And there's a bounty. The bounty represents chips. Not only that, if you win this spot, you have a massive stack going towards the bubble of a bounty builder. We'd have 70 big blinds, would be one of the biggest stacks in the tournaments, and now all of a sudden that risk doesn't seem that bad. All of a sudden, all these beautiful things that we have to play for are worth that gamble, so to say, with Queen 10. So sometimes people see me do something like that on a stream, but there's actually a lot of strategy behind it. I really paid attention to the table and my opponent. I was also right, because I had a hand as weak as King 5. There's a bounty dead in it. It's good for us. I explained the whole bubble mechanics on a bounty builder. So it's good for us to have a big stack on and after the bubble in a bounty builder. And there was the bounty dead money. Doesn't really get better than that. Yes, you're wagering 30 big blinds with Queen 10. But I honestly think that that situation really exceeds just thinking about, should I call 30 big blinds with Queen 10? So I think that's a great end of the video. I'm super happy to get the money in there. I really hope you guys learned something from it. Honestly, I think if you are worried about those situations, you shouldn't really be playing bounty builders, because sometimes the money has to go in. If you want to ask me more questions, if you want to know more, if you want to talk to other people about poker, please join my Discord. The link is in the description. Also, like, subscribe this video. You can also comment in the comment section here if you have some questions, and I'll get back to you. I've been answering most comments, and you guys have been amazing. So thank you for watching, and see you next time for Learn with Lex.